Everyone says I love you, but just what they say it for I never knew. It's just inviting trouble for the poor sucker who says I love you.
I love good music.
So do I. Let's get out of here.
Sit down.
Now, Spencer, you stay outside. Let Lupo do the talking, and you keep quiet.
See that you remember that. Now, all we got for a clue is this cigar butt. So I'll trap him into offering us one of his cigars. Now, if his cigar matches this one, he's unquestionably guilty.
That's right.
Now, we mustn't let on what we're after.
All right, I won't say anything.
I know that, but don't talk either.
Shut up. Shut up.
What do you want?
Oh, sure. We come in if you insist.
Oh, by the way, do you happen to have a spare cigar on you?
Hey, I think I got one.
You're a big help, you are. I'll clean up this case if you'll keep quiet. Do you realize if Jeff had been hit a little harder, the charge would have been murder? Pronounced murder? Wow. Oh, heck, I seem to be all out of cigars. You don't happen to have a spare cheroot on you, do you?
Hey, I find one more. Are you lucky? I thought this cigar was in my other suit.
I wish you were in your other suit and your other suit was being pressed.
Hello, YouTube and YouTubettes. Welcome to another Marx Brothers movie review. Today we're going to review At the Circus that came out in October 20th, 1939. I am Robbo.
And I'm Becko.
The Marx Brothers work together to save a circus from closing. Circus owner Jeff needs $10,000 to pay off his business partner John. In an effort to take over the circus himself, John allows his accomplices to steal the $10,000 from Jeff before he can pay. Loophole, a clumsy attorney who tries to help recover the money, enlists the help of wealthy Mrs. Dukesbury.
So, Becko, who's are the actors in this movie?
Jerry Marin plays the professor. Groucho Marx plays Loophole. Harpo Marx plays Punchy. Chico Marx plays Antonio. Florence Rice plays Julie. Eve Arden plays the peerless Pauline. Margaret Dumont plays Mrs. Dukesbury. Kenny Baker plays Jeff. And Nat Pendleton plays Goliath.
Now, it's fun when we watch these movies because I've seen them all before, and sometimes when I'm doing the review, it kind of surprises me one way or the other, and this is one of those. At the Circus is one of those that really surprised me, and we both came to the same conclusion. So let's see what this movie's all about. So what's your thoughts on the story of the movie?
The storyline was pretty good in this movie. It actually had a really good plot. And all the scenes kind of contributed to that. Nothing was kind of fluff, or everything flowed together really well, and it had a pretty engaging storyline.
Yeah, I agree. It kept me interested, even if it wasn't a Marx Brothers comedy. I think the story itself would work really well. Do you have a favorite scene that pushed the story forward?
My favorite story scene was kind of it's two scenes, but it's the romantic moments between Jeff and, I can't remember her name, Julie, that's her name.
Yeah.
But there's one on the train and one in the diner. I feel like the romance scenes were almost as good as any other drama or romance movie of the time.
Yeah, and my favorite scene was the action-packed ending when they are trying to bring in the circus, when she's expecting the orchestra, and that whole thing is hilarious, but also kind of caps off the whole story of that he's trying to save the circus, and of course there's people trying to blackball him, and this is his last chance to save the circus. So that's an exciting scene. So what's your overall score for the story?
My score for the story is 9.
And I also give it a 9. Okay, now we'll talk about the quality of the movie. Becko, what are your thoughts?
The movie was very good quality all the way through. There weren't really any technical issues, which sometimes, especially the earlier movies, that you see a lot. Just in general, it was very consistent. Every last actor was good, even the smaller parts. All the songs were good, all the acting was good in the script and everything. It had better like gags that the Marx Brothers do, just like different funny things where you think, how did they do that kind of thing? Which you kind of miss in room service. It didn't have the best gags, but this one did. The whole scene where Groucho is wearing that suit that belongs to a magician, and there's just like different magic tricks that happen. And I think there's a part where Harpo coughs up the stuffing from the pillow or the mattress, and even just some of the circus tricks, you see people, balancing on horses and walking on the ceiling. So all of that was kind of made it interesting, and it was well done.
Yes, I think overall it was pretty good quality. There was two tiny issues that I think I wasn't sure about in terms of editing. One is, how did Groucho get on the train and how did he get off and get ahead of them? If I don't know if you noticed that, but like obviously he wasn't able to get on the train because he didn't have a badge, and then later he's on the train. It doesn't really explain how he gets there. And then somehow he ends up at Mrs. Dewsbury's before the train arrives, and it doesn't really explain how he got off and got ahead of him. So the other thing is, and this wasn't anybody's fault, but apparently the guy that played in and he owned and played in the ape suit, he was asking for more money and basically went on strike. So they ended up getting a new ape suit in the middle of the movie. So the ape that you see at the beginning is not the same ape at the end. It's like
I didn't even
it
notice
looks
that.
differently, but it's not a major thing, but it wasn't anything that was their fault. But other than that, it was pretty good quality. So do you have any thoughts on the costuming or set designs?
Nothing really stood out. I mean, it wasn't like anything amazing. It was just, I mean, it was consistent and well done without being anything spectacular as far as the scenes. It was kind of cool. Most of the movie took place on the train, and so they did a really good job of making you feel like you were on the train, and just the way that was set
Hmm.
up, and the scene that took place inside the little man,
Hmm.
the dwarf's train car, because everything was smaller for his being his size. So just little things like that put you in the place, whether they were in the tent or on the train. It was well done, but nothing was spectacular.
Hmm. So what's your overall score for quality?
I gave it a 9.
And I gave it a 7. So, Becca, what was your overall thoughts of the music in the movie?
This one had really consistent songs all throughout. I think you kind of miss Harpo and Chico normally play something. I don't think,
Harpo does play on the harp.
but does he play like a whole separate number, or does he play kind of
Yes,
in the background?
I think it was a
Trying to
really
remember.
beautiful piece, actually. And Chico plays a song briefly and
Yeah,
plays some in the background, but
yeah.
uh,
I didn't remember that happening.
mhm,
But the songs themselves that were written for the movie were all really good. Even the sappy love song was well done. Lydia the Tattoo Lady is always a funny song. And if it didn't have that jazz number, that would have been my favorite number, because it's
mhm,
definitely one of the better Marx Brothers songs just in general.
mhm,
But all the music was really good and good quality. But my favorite song was that jazz number where the band comes in and plays with Harpo, kind of
mhm.
sings and then dances with them and stuff.
Yeah. I think that the love songs were okay. I'd kind of compare them to Coconuts, where they're kind of cute but not great, like an Alan Jones Night at the Opera kind of love song.
Hmm.
But they're okay. But the Lydia, the Tattoo Lady, is my favorite song, probably in all the Marx Brothers movies. The
Hmm.
jazz song was also really good, and Harpo's harp performance. I'm surprised you didn't remember that because I thought it was one of the more beautiful that he ever did. It was a little different A lot of times it sounds repetitive, but I think this was a little more interesting. So I'm trying to think of any other songs, but I think some of the best songs were in this. But what's your overall score for the music?
My score for the music is 9.
And I also gave it a 9. Okay, let's talk about the performances of the non-Marx Brothers.
All the other characters and the actors in this were really good. They were consistent. They were just good right down to every last one of them. My favorite character doesn't really appear until close to the very end, which is Mrs. Dukesbury.
Mhm.
And I think Margaret Dumont really kind of improves, and maybe it's just the way she's playing this character. Maybe she had a range that we didn't know about. I think you see some of that in, I can't remember which one it
Date the
was.
Races.
Yeah, you see a little bit
Mhm.
more of personality coming out of her, but she's just so funny in this.
Mhm.
And she's funny like without really trying to be, which is sort of how she is in all the movies, but in this one she's really like a funny character, and she plays her character so well and so over the top. She always has such good chemistry with Groucho, but this one, her, yeah, she just played a really funny character. It kind of reminded me of characters from You Can't Take It With You,
Mhm.
where they're not trying to be funny, they just are, kind
Yeah.
of thing. They're not telling jokes, they just have like a funny voice or a funny way that they carry themselves. But
Yeah.
her character in that was just really probably my favorite that I've seen from her so far.
Yeah, I going 3/4 of the way into the movie, I was not sure who I was going to pick as my favorite. I thought the straight characters were okay; they were just kind of decent. I think you liked them better than I did, but I was kind of leaning towards the professor, and then Margaret Dumont comes in. Now, here's the thing: so there's some movies where Margaret Dumont plays the straight character, kind of the stuck-up rich lady. There's other movies where she plays more silly, like A Day at the Races.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in this one, she had all the range where she was partly the stuck up rich lady and partly the silly,
Yeah.
happy go lucky lady. So this was her most range in terms of any movie she's done. You know,
Yeah.
before we watched this, I thought A Day at the Races was her best performance. But watching this, even though she was only in it for a quarter of the movie, I'd have to say this was her best performance
Definitely.
of the movies we've seen so far. The Marx Brothers, what is your thoughts on the Marx Brothers performances?
Definitely one of the better, where they were all consistently good. Groucho still, he stands out to me in this one for sure, but they were all really good in this, and I wasn't disappointed by their performance.
Yes, I kind of had it in my mind that after A Day at the Races, their energy went downhill. But watching this, that was not the case at all. They were all on point. They were all just incredibly good. The Chico Harpo scenes, fantastic. The Groucho Chico scenes were fantastic, and just a wonderful performance by the Marx Brothers. And my favorite was also Groucho. So, what was your score for the performances?
My score for performance is 9.
And mine is a 10. Now, let's talk about the humor in the movie.
There were so many good humorous scenes that it was kind of hard to pick. The scene when Groucho's trying to get on the train is really funny, just his interaction with Chico. Usually in other movies, when they have this interaction, oftentimes they have a piece of paper that they're trying to tear up. But this one, it was more something about the reason for him to not get on the train, and every time Chico would give him an idea, maybe you can get on the train this way. There was always like he would always then be the one to tell him no, even after he was the one that came up with the idea. That was a pretty funny scene. The scene where Groucho meets Mrs. Dukesbury in her house was really funny because he's just a random man she's never met that appears into her bedroom, and he pretends like he's somebody else that she's expecting. But that whole interaction is really hilarious, and there's just a lot of funny moments all throughout. I think my favorite funny scene is the cigar scene where they're in the professor's train car, and
Yeah.
he keeps trying to get a cigar from the professor, but then Chico keeps finding his own cigars to give him.
Yeah.
And it kind of ruins it.
Uh-huh.
You can't tell if Chico is that dumb or if he's
Messing with
or if
Groucho.
he's smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chico keeps thwarting, Groucho's trying to frame the professor, and so that whole scene is pretty funny.
I think yes, the first scene. Well, this is the first movie I remember ever seeing, and I think it was yours as well. And I was in a horrible mood that day, and the first 15 minutes or so, I continued to be in a horrible mood, and then there was the scene with Groucho trying to get on the train, and my whole mood changed, and I became a Marx Brothers fan just like that, and just Groucho's, facial expressions where he knew he was getting done over, but he would roll his eyes or act like he didn't. I don't know, just the little things he would do. It was just really funny, and but yeah, and there was so many great funny scenes in this, but my favorite was also when they searched the professor. And one of the things I noticed is usually in the Marx Brothers movies, any bad guys in the movies tend to be jerks. But this professor was not really a jerk. He kind of came off nice when he was relating to them, But that's kind of different. But but yeah, that scene was just a masterpiece of a scene. And all three of the Marx Brothers were just hilarious. So what's your overall score for humor?
My score for humor is 10.
Mine is also a 10. So what's your final score for At the Circus?
My score is 9.3.
And I had a 9.2.
Oh, Hildegard.
My name is Susanna.
Let's not quibble. It's enough that you've killed something fine and beautiful. Oh, Susanna. Oh, Susanna. Oh, won't you fly with me? For I need $10,000, cause the sheriff's after me.
Get out of this room or I'll scream for the servants.
Let the servants know. Let the whole world know about us.
You must leave my room. We must have regard for certain conventions.
One guy isn't enough. She's got to have a convention.